What's up, Folkwax? Today I'm happy to say that this video is sponsored by Arrtx. I'm super happy to be able to have this opportunity, especially right after reaching 6K subscribers on YouTube, so you can tell I'm in a very good mood. They also told me that I was allowed to be honest in my review, so that's what I'm going to do later on, as you'll see. I don't have too much terrible things to say about it or anything like that. My negative thoughts are mainly just like minor, I would say. They're mostly specific to me, but maybe some people who also kind of, you know, work with markers and like acrylic paints and all that might also feel the same way. I don't know, but like I said, we'll get to that later. First off, I wanted to, you know, show off the unboxing. I don't have much to say about it except for, you know, I think that the packaging is really cool, and also, you know, good variety of colors we got. They're very vibrant. When I was putting down the color swatches, I was like, man, these colors are like, they remind me of candy. And that kind of inspired the painting that you'll see later on that I was doing as like the example of like how the markers work, and also just to like test them out. Because I wanted to do something small at first, but then I was like, nah, I'm going to challenge myself and do something a bit more detailed, just to really push the extent of the markers. But anyway, when I was putting down the swatches, I was just like, okay, everything's going down well. They're also very flat. Like, when they go down, that like is just flat, and I'm just like, that is so satisfying to look at. It is such a satisfying feeling to be able to like put down a marker, and there's no like little streaks or anything like that. It's flat. Some markers did have like a little bit of like, I kind of had to, you know, sort of encourage it a little bit to get some of the acrylic out, but it wasn't like terrible. And unfortunately, as you'll see when I was testing out something, I had to sacrifice one of the markers, unfortunately. So when I was experimenting, well, one of the first experiments I wanted to do was, you know, blending. They blend pretty well, however, they sort of blend in this way that I wasn't really expecting. So I was kind of just like, okay, so they're gonna blend in a way where it's like you know, place one down, and then you just kind of, you know, place the other one, and then you kind of just, you know, mingle it a little bit, and that's kind of what happened. But also, like, you kind of have to sort of pile on top of it in a way. I guess my approach to the markers was that I was kind of approaching them like it was a paint rather than a marker, which was maybe the issue, because I noticed that with these sort of paint markers, you can't really do that. They kind of are, but they aren't paint. So that was kind of my issue. So like I said, that's a me thing, because I love painting. But yeah, so when I was trying to blend, I had to kind of alter my blending style a little bit to be able to get the desired effect that I wanted. And also, unfortunately, these markers do not mesh well with acrylic paint. It says acrylic marker, but that does not equate to paint. It's acrylic something, but it's not paint. So unfortunately, when I was testing it out, it did not really work out super well, and that is what killed one of the markers. Well, it didn't kill it, but it definitely like kind of zapped a little bit of its life force, unfortunately. So after the color swatch, now we're gonna get on to the painting itself. I guess, is it a painting? I don't know. I put it on a canvas because it says that the markers say that you can do like a variety of like surfaces. So I was like, okay, bet. So I put on a canvas rather than in my sketchbook. I did do some stuff in my sketchbook with it, and it does seem to handle it pretty well. I do like that. But anyway, so the colors I felt were very candy-like, so that's why I made this picture like candy. Well, it's candy gore basically, but I got really carried away near the end because I was just like, what in the world am I doing with this piece? I just went crazy. It's a lot. I had to speed it up because it took hours to get done, because another thing I realized is that I kind of overestimated the markers, kind of. I kind of had like really lofty expectations, but I think that was also because I was just like, oh, because I was under the impression that I could use them like with my paints. I can't. So I had the entire thing in the markers, and it was a challenge. For one thing, for blending, because I had to like change up my blending style, and then also I had to do a lot of like layering and stuff, like the white or like some of the lighter markers kind of just didn't lay down super well, and I think also is because of the pencil. I was hoping that it would cover over the pencil well, but it kind of didn't, or at least the lighter colors didn't. I think that's just might be I don't know. The lighter colors kind of blended in with the pencil and it smudged a little bit, so I kind of had to sort of go over it with like a different color, then go over it again, and it was just a little annoying. This piece just was a bit of a mess to figure out and work with, but I think I enjoyed the challenge. I don't think I would do something like this again though, just because I don't want to waste these markers. I feel like what I've gathered from these markers is that they're really good for like adding stuff on top of something that's finished, you know what I mean? Or like doodles or decorating. They're not really meant for like doing whole pieces, or you could, but like you just gotta be careful because you don't want to like overuse them. That's why I don't really do like too many full illustrations with my markers anymore, because I just don't like wasting them, even though I know that's the purpose. I think that's the issue. I was just afraid of overusing them, you know, because these are so nice, they're really good quality. I will say that like eventually I figured out a way to like blend, and I do kind of like it. I did manage to alter it in a way where I could kind of mimic the way I paint, but like with marker, and I liked the way I was layering it. It wasn't super blended, but I was like, you know what, I kind of like this look. It looks interesting. It's kind of like how I do my digital art sometimes. So I kind of embraced this sort of look, and I just kind of had fun with it. I just kind of, you know, I went with the flow of the overall markers. I let the markers guide me, basically. I was just like, you know what, fine, I'm gonna just go with this, and yeah. And I think that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting with these markers, is that you just gotta go with the flow and just kind of let the markers guide you, as cheesy as that sounds. Overall, I would give these markers an 8 out of 10. There's a good variety of colors, but I would say one of my biggest cons is that there needs to be more blues, purples, and oranges. Like, there wasn't too many blues, in my opinion. I kind of wish there was like a darker blue, like kind of like a navy blue. Like, okay, there is a navy blue, but I mean like a darker blue. Like kind of close to black, but like still visibly blue or something like that. I also kind of wish there was a colorless blender. That would have made things like, that would have been a life changer. Because I was like, oh, there's a white one. So I thought that white one was be like the colorless blender. But no, it's white. And I was like, oh, well that's fine, I guess. But it's not a colorless blender, and I think that a blender would have been nice to like add, so that way it would have made blending a little bit more smooth. I mean, they do blend well, but like that blender would have been, you know, it would have been something interesting. And again, they don't go well with acrylic paint, so do not mix them with acrylic paint. You can put it on top of acrylic paintings, but I do like that they pop out in general. The colors are just very vibrant. Like, I was like, wow. Like, you don't even have to, I don't even have to like edit the video just to show off how bright they are. You can just tell just by looking at them. And I was looking at the canvas when I was finished the piece, and even then, even though I put like a overlay of like acrylic highlighter pink paint over it, you can still see how bright everything comes through. Like, it still looks vibrant, which goes to show you that, yeah, these markers are they're really nice. And also, I forgot to mention, because they don't handle well with acrylic paint, they don't handle acrylic brushes well at all. You can't use them with brushes, they just don't work. So that kind of sucks. But again, that's only if you're like me and you're like, oh, I want to use these with my paints. You can, but you just can't paint with them like they're paints. You can only use them as like to add details and whatnot, which I think is great. So they're great for like doodles, adding like, you know, little details. And also collage. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to use these in my collages. Before I used like just regular paint, but now that I have these, I can use them for my collages, and I don't have to worry about them, you know, like I don't have to worry about my paint drying, taking forever to dry. I don't have to worry about mixing. I have the markers right there. It's perfect. Actually, that's another thing. They dry really fast, and I'm like, thank you. Thank you so much. This is great. This is life-changing, actually. That made the overall piece that I was working on like way easier to do, because by the time I was like finished one area, I didn't have to worry about like, you know, my hands smudging. It smudged a little bit at times, but I was like, okay. It wasn't as bad if I was working regular paints, where it takes a bit longer to you know, dry, but it's still quick with paint. But with these, they dry really fast. So I think that's really nice. That way you can layer them easily, and also if you want to add like more colors and stuff, it makes things easier, which I really appreciate. It's very convenient. And that's another thing, is that if you like wanted to fix a color, you're like, oh, I don't like this color, you can just wait for it to dry, and then you can go over it again, and boom, it covers the color. Now obviously if it's like a really dark color, it's probably not gonna go over completely, or you have to like layer it a bunch of times for it to really pop through. Even then, I think the dark color is gonna really still be like a little bit visible. It's gonna be a little darker, but I think overall it does go over like dark colors pretty decently as well. So yeah. I think my rating would have been like a 10 out of 10 if it was for the fact that it had a bit more variety of colors, and it was on me for having really high expectations. I wouldn't say that my expectations were like, I guess maybe I was under the impression that my brain was like, oh, acrylic, so it could work with paints. It doesn't really, and I should have realized that, because when I would see people working with Posca pens, I never really saw them doing like blending the pens or anything like that. They always had like this sort of cell shaded look to them, and I was like, oh, I thought it was a stylistic thing for these people, but no, it's just because these sort of markers and stuff, they don't blend, or they can, but they aren't really meant for that, or you kind of have to finesse it in a way, and I don't think a lot of people want to do that. I think they're better for more of a graphical 2D approach, and if you want to do something more three-dimensional, you're going to have to kind of push at it a little bit, but I think that's fine though. That extra effort isn't too much, unless you're like me and you want to be like over the top with everything. But like I said, that's a me thing. So yeah, I'm in love with these markers. I can't wait to use them more in the future. Like, this is actually, I'm not even trying to be like, you know, I'm being serious. Like, I genuinely really love these, and I'm really happy I got the opportunity to, you know, have the sponsorship. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed my silly review, and I'll see you quite later.